I believe that art of the future is art without objects. It's just pure transmission of energy between the viewer and the artist. To me, mixed reality is this answer.
This was a unique opportunity to take the most legendary artists working now and capture them in such a way that they are translatable forever.
If you're a collector, you're trying to find works that break new ground. We here at Christie's believe that this is that. And it will be the first time that a mixed reality artwork is sold at auction.
There was always a question what you buy when you buy performance. You buy the video or you buy the edition of photographs. Here, you actually can have the artist's presence in your collection.
The first thing that we had to figure out was you had to feel that you were in the room with Marina, not a document of Marina. So HoloLens 2 was created by people who quite clearly have an interest in the audience forgetting that they are using technology. So the purest expression of artistic intent can happen.
I really want viewer to be with me in the space, in here and now. The life is dealing with what is going to stay after I'm not there anymore. And I can face myself. And that's a frightening experience. Really like you're facing your own ghost. There is always this great idea of immortality. Once you die, the work will never die because the work of art can continue. In performance, the piece is only in the memory of the audience and nowhere else. Here, I am kept forever.
Computer screens are blue lit. The reason none of them are red lit, the reason none of them pay attention to circadian biology is because that original technology was developed in a government program that Bobby Kennedy knows about, and I happen to know about because I went to medical school at LSU. For those of you who've never heard about Operation Paperclip, you think it's all conspiracy theory. So at two-lane neurology and two-lane neurosurgery in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, the CIA started a program there where they would do all these crazy things to monkeys. The CIA wanted to see how they could control things utilizing different things like drugs and things like that. Where the neurosurgeons got involved, which is my clade, we would drill tops of the heads off, put wires into the thalamus, put electricity in there, and kind of see what kind of behavioral changes we could have. One of the guys that was in that program was a guy named Professor Delgado. When he saw that we could control the behavior with the wired device, he said, what if we do it wirelessly? So he checked it in monkeys and checked it in bulls, and it turned out you can do it wirelessly with RFID chips and semiconductors. Then the CIA took it to the next level. They said, well, since this is electromagnetic radiation, what if we did it through light through screens? And it turns out you can. And that's the reason why all your computer screens have the frequencies they have. So why is this all important? Well, the person that set this meeting up between me and Bobby is the patent attorney that made sure that Google and Meta have those things so they can control the things that we all do. Where did the original idea come from that started off in MK Ultra with the CIA? You're going to be surprised when you hear this. It came from the mafia in Las Vegas. They wanted to build a new city in a desert. They enclosed it all, blacked out the windows, invented slot machines that were blue lit. And they found out that they didn't have to take a gun, stick it in your face to steal your money. Then they even got smart. They said, let's give people free alcohol while they're doing that. And they found out they got the money quicker. And that's when the CIA got the idea to start this program. That's really how it started.
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices. Their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
One of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein did say he shifted into like a reptilian like figure when he was raping her. But yeah, she said she didn't say it for a while because it was like too embarrassing. Sounds too crazy.
Yeah, it sounds nuts.
I saw Epstein shift in front of my eyes. It was very, very frightening. It was like a weird hologram and it had like big black eyes. It was like reptilian, draconian, alien sort of thing. And it's just something that I had to explain to myself because I saw him turn into something. You know, it's not an easy thing to talk about because I can understand that a lot of people wouldn't understand it if they haven't seen it. But I saw it. And, you know, I'd like to be lie detected on it. I'd actually love to be lie detected on it.
But it's kind of the same whether it's demons or reptilians. To me, it's not much of a difference. It's clearly the same entities, whatever you believe.
I remember a while ago reading this thing about how Princess Diana said that she saw the Queen and the royals shapeshift into reptilians.
Crazy.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but even this sounds crazy. Like this was in the email where it said George Bush 1 claims the abuse of a male minor by Bush and claimed ritualistic acts, including the dismemberment of infants, the removal of their intestines, and the consumption of feces, meaning they would eat the feces that was in the intestine. Like this is, see, even that, you don't even have to get into reptilian stuff like that in itself.
We are the first species on the face of this earth to be aware of evolution, to be aware that we are affecting our own evolution by everything that we do. The babies we eat, the food we eat, the wars we fight. The babies we eat, the food we eat, the wars we fight.
I have spent the last 17 years in my own prison for what she, Jeffrey, and all the co-conspirators did to me. I was raped repeatedly. I was raped 3 times a day sometimes. And I was not the only girl on that island. There was a constant stream of girls being raped over and over and over again. And yes, Ghislaine must die in prison because I've been in hell and back for the last 17 years.
And 27 for me.
I was 10 years old when Liz Stein was being trafficked. I was 10. That is how long the sex trafficking ring has been going on.
I consider the Trump administration a danger to the world, but I regard it as a purely temporary phenomenon that will disappear in 2020 or even sooner. I give President Trump credit for motivating his core supporters brilliantly, but for every core supporter, he has created a greater number of core opponents who are equally strongly motivated. That's why I expect a democratic landslide. President Trump is a con man and the ultimate narcissist who wants the world to revolve around him. When his fantasy of becoming president came true, his narcissism developed a pathological dimension.
Remember, I made Space Force and they tried to end it as soon as they came into office, and they had a revolt in the military. We created Space Force. That's the first time in 78 years since the Air Force that something like that's been done, creating a new branch.
I think that man will be president of the United States right about the time that spaceships come down filled with dinosaurs and red capes.
It's a very serious issue. And I will tell you, if this is disclosed improperly, it'll be 1,000 times worse than COVID.
Hi, I'm Hillary Clinton, and I'm a dandelion, and that means that I am all in on making sure that we tell the story of climate change and what it's going to do to our lives if we don't act now.
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
There is an agenda to starve humanity. There is an agenda to create a global famine. They've been telling us it was coming for years. And when you look at what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, you see, there's a real mechanism through which this could happen. I do know that the Iranians are working closely with Beijing. I do know that the Iranians are working closely with Moscow. And I believe, and I have believed for a long time, that the next world war that the evildoers are setting up is going to involve Russia and China coming after the United States. And I think this one we're supposed to lose. I think that's the plan, that the United States is going to lose the next world war. The Chinese are preparing for war against the United States. There's no question about it. Anybody who has studied communist China will tell you they're teaching their children to prepare for war. They are preparing the weaponry to wage war on us. In fact, I would argue they are already waging war on us. They call it a people's war, unrestricted warfare. And basically everything short of bombs and bullets, those will come in the next phase. Based on their public statements, it sure seems like they thought this was going to be a cakewalk. It was going to be like Maduro, we're just going to grab the guy and it's all going to be over and everybody's going to say, wow, isn't the U.S. military amazing? But what happened here is clearly not what the American people were told was going to happen.
The Strait of Hormuz and the fact that the other countries aren't willing to come in and at least keep that open. Why is the world not willing to help at least keep it open when it can create mass famine and actually harm a lot of people in their own country?
All right, I see what they did here. They spent the past 30 years beefing up China's military, with cheap labor and building a force in China in order to attack and take over the United States. Now, there's two timelines. One is a preemptive nuclear strike that will proliferate into global nuclear war, which will destroy most of the world by attacking China with a nuke, and then everybody pops off. Now, the other timeline is allowing China to take over the United States of America. Now, I know how that sounds, but they fucked America. They fucked up. And now China has the upper hand and can take America. I mean, they destroyed America. So, basically either way, we're pretty fucked. It's either a nuclear war that kills everybody, or China comes in, takes over the United States. Now, if there is a nuclear war, and most people are wiped off the face of the earth, it will be Agenda 30, which is the satanic New World Order, which they want to bring about. They want the nuclear war. That's why they set this whole thing up. China and the Illuminati dumping money into China for the past 30 years. These businessmen fucked
all of us.
Your medicines, we know from the COVID vaccine, very effective, very welcome. The logistics around that vaccine were not straightforward because of the new technologies. We're talking about countries here that do not have advanced.
Is that? Let me see that. Okay.
Mr. President, we have about 5 minutes remaining in the majority's first hour, so I just want to ask you some questions related to the crimes committed by Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell.
Bill Gates is part of a reptilian race that includes Tom Hanks and Lady Gaga.
Entertainment and information are a lot closer together than they ever have been before. There's no way to stop it.
I don't have the solution.
Come on, Bill.
His opponent called proposals to increase education funding the definition of insanity. Really? I mean, have you been on the internet? People are out there saying that we're ruled by giant lizards and that Elvis is alive. You can't think of anything crazier than investing more in our schools and our children?
You know, of course she was going to say that, but...
Poor baby.
Yeah, she's really, really committed to that. It's really sad.
No, I'm not a poor baby. I'm more reptilian and cold-blooded and go in to win the election.
We're going to take a short break. I want to talk to you more about President Biden and some other things.
Thank you. But they didn't know what they were talking about. We know we're different from the presidential. We're very discreet, reptilian, cold-blooded. These are the races we have to win. Others are winning the whole country. 10.
The Earth Summit Environmental Leadership Act, as this is known, presents us with an opportunity to follow up on the important work of the Earth Summit to develop its blueprint, Agenda 21, for global environmental action. HCON Res 353 outlines a comprehensive national strategy for sustainable development in accordance with the principles of Agenda 21 to be coordinated under the leadership of a specific office and at the direction of a high-level government official. The resolution also urges the United States to identify and initiate further agreements to protect the global environment and to support the creation of a high-level United Nations Sustainable Development Commission headed by an Undersecretary General. Third and lastly, the President is urged to report to Congress on the progress made on with this action. HCON Res 353 is supported by the administration. I have been in contact with the appropriate offices of the State Department and have incorporated their suggestions into the resolution. The 71 co-sponsors of this measure include one-half the members of the Foreign Affairs Committee and all of the House delegates to the Earth Summit. It is also supported by the major United States non-governmental organizations concerned with the environmental issues. The Earth Summit presented world leaders with an opportunity that should not be lost. We must now embark on a new course that will sustain our planet and its resources for the benefit of future generations. This resolution calls on the United States to assert its leadership to achieve this goal. I urge my colleagues to support this resolution. Thanks again to the members of the Foreign Affairs Committee for their recognition of the importance and timeliness of this resolution. We must make the promise of Rio a reality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
After a deluded gunman assassinated President Kennedy.
Can you
clarify what you said about no one in the Democratic Party is anti-police? I know that you have said you don't want to defund the police.
That is not the Democratic Party's position.
Okay.
I'm the Democratic Party. I am president. So is the Speaker of the House, and so is the majority leader. We are not defunding the police.
And are there people who, in the Democratic Party, who want to defund the president?
Are there people in the Republican Party who think we're sucking the blood out of kids?
I'm not sure. Are there people in the Democratic Party who want to...
Mr. President, Speaker Pelosi made the right choice.
The world fell apart when he came on the scene. He knows that. I think they're going to be desperate. I think you're absolutely right about what the contours of the next election are going to be. It's going to be Donald Trump is January 6th, beat that dead horse. It's going to be abortion. It's going to be Donald Trump, lawfare. And then it's going to be confidence in 70% of the electorate not voting in person on election day. And that's all they have. Every single issue, people are sick of him. And but I do have some confidence. I'm a little bit more optimistic when you look at that face and you see that reptilian grin and an anger, and he screams. For emphasis, he doesn't change his intonation or use his hands or try to smile. It's just very angry and full of venom, as if all of the veneer of self-control of an earlier Joe Biden is gone now, and it's the real Joe Biden coming out. We've seen it before, and it's kind of frightening. I've never seen an angrier speech, State of the Union, than that. Never.
All that's gone, and I'm I'd like to believe that at some point you have to stop pretending that yeah, you're right. Maybe we're not just as strong, you mean? Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think I'm gonna see next week. So I mean, we have time, but I'm going in and out of places. But not everyone has time.
Your relationship with Joe, and what do I need to know? Like, what's the thing about the ice cream? He loves ice cream. Tell me about that.
Well, listen, ice cream is big. Pasta with red sauce, he can go deep on that.
I was right in the middle of a fucking reptile zoo. And somebody was giving booze to these goddamn things. It won't be long now.
Bon appetit.
Truth. Every time a new baby is born, the Federal Reserve issues a secret birth certificate printed by a company called the American Bank. That way, the government can use people as currency to back the debt they have with the World Economic Forum, which owns the central banks of every nation on Earth. But the WEF is just a front for the Council on Foreign Relations, which masterminded the 9/11 attacks as a pretext to invade Iraq, take the oil, and install fast food chains to make people slow, fat, and easily abductable by the shape-shifting reptilian aliens it works with. Now, back in the 30s, FDR made a deal with these reptilians to exchange people for technology. FDR made a deal with these reptilians to exchange people for technology. That was the basis of the New Deal. But ever since, they've been slowly replacing all the world leaders to create a nuclear holocaust to make global warming real for their takeover. That's how they made up the Cold War, by sending Leica to space to bite Neil Armstrong while Kubrick was faking the moon landing. Now they're using satellite waves, contrails, and measles vaccines as mind control, and fluoridating the water to keep people's gold fillings intact so they can be sent back to, you guessed it, the Federal Reserve, where all the gold and birth certificates are stored by the real puppet master, the world monarch, who is himself only the servant of the all-seeing eye who controls everything in the world.
Reagan, you're the life of this party. That's the most natural smile I've ever seen out of Mark Zuckerberg.
So the song Shake It Off was about how I shed my skin every 1,000 years. And the song Bad Blood was about how I drink blood out of my Grammys.
A toast to blood! Save some blood for Paul Rudd. I gave you my kidney, and it was delicious. Reagan, meet my favorite reptoid zentitives, Barb Shrike and Zarthax Griswold Walton of the Reptoid High Council.
Good evening, your lizardness.
Oh, we're not that important. It's not like we control the world.
All rise for the reptilian anthem!
Let's get down to business. We reptoids have had a great decade. Thanks to propaganda in the media, we have made society more tolerant of our kind, from the Geico gecko to the shape of water. We even got K-Rool in Smash! We did it, everyone! The world temperature is rising. The time is coming, brethren. Soon we shall fulfill the prophecy, overthrow humanity, and become the true rulers of the world!
They say that every year, but they're never gonna do it.
I was writing a story at one point that was kind of like that, where it was some detective, and he starts realizing that there's some people that keep disappearing. And it's kind of a missing persons case, and it kind of turns into like a lot of missing people. And he starts kind of looking over, he kind of put the board up, they got their faces up there, and realize all these people are really large. And then all of a sudden it turns into this total sci-fi thing where it's like actually the aliens have like kind of infiltrated the government. They've like engineered this, the corn products, all the syrup, and they're basically like, the government's like, yeah, for whatever technology, we'll take this and we'll feed our people this, and the aliens are harvesting the fat people to put in their rocket ships to sail around.
Power their rocket ships,
yeah,
like whale oil.
We're fossil fuel, like
Wow.
they're just kind of harvesting.
Why not?
Harvest.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Fossil
They're
fuel.
coming. They're going to suck us up. They're going to put us in a fucking engine.
Yeah, the twist would be on the like all of a sudden there's a very large family and they're not being harvested. Like, what's going on? It's like, well, it's just they're genetically that's their genetics. They haven't been fed the corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup. Okay, and then this is the exact same brand, same ketchup that I bought in Canada while I was visiting this weekend. There's a maple leaf. Okay, look at this. None of that. Tomato paste, sugar, vinegar, salt, spices. Made with 5 simple ingredients. This is why America makes you sick. Ever since moving here, honestly, I've noticed a big difference in the quality.
We've got 400 years and the planet's done.
Whoa.
diseases start showing up, and you know, weird funguses that take you out that didn't before. And in 400 years, I'm such an idiot. Why did I say that out loud? I'm
I
never gonna hear
don't
the
think
end of
that's a
it.
bad.
These videos of the nearly identical craft were recently taken, not Jonathan Reed's. It's evidence that he was telling the truth, that this is real.
Oh!
Times won this election, they will legalize enough illegals to turn the swing states, and everywhere will be like California. There will be no escape.
That is so insane.
This is the final. This is it. This is the last chance.
Has anybody tried to push back?
And I just want to go out and vote. Vote like your life depends on it. Vote like your future depends on it, because it does. This is the last chance, man.
It was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him, and guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
Years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on. And they get out there in the woods in a circle, they decide these things, and, you know, look at them trying to come it up.
Needless to say, all this UFO talk has the tinfoil hatters going wild, including Green Bay whackpacker Aaron Rodgers, who offered this hot take on the Pat McAfee show.
Did you hear about the Epstein client list about to be released, too? There's some files that have some names on it that might be getting released pretty soon.
Oh. Might be time to revisit that concussion protocol, Aaron.
I've been in this industry a long time. I've seen things. The real elite, the ones at the very top, they don't just play power games. They worship something much darker. They worship the devil. I've been to those parties. I've heard the rituals, seen the symbols. It's not metaphor. It's real. They sell their souls for fame and power.
Question. Has anyone here ever actually been to hell?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone?
Of course, yeah.
What's it like?
Well, hell's terrible, Jimmy. It really is. There's gluten everywhere.
And, they have bowls of Advil instead of M&M's.
Yeah. And they have dial-up internet.
Oh,
no. Wow, that is terrible. But if it's so bad, why did you all go there?
Well, Jimmy, hell is where our agents make our deals with the devil.
Oh, that explains that.
Hell is where our agents make our deals with the devil.
For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?
I sold my soul to the devil. This is the first time I'm wearing a long dress, so soak it in, America. I sold my soul to the devil. In a really weird mental state lately.
You've been in a weird mental state?
Yeah, I keep finding these bites all over my body.
What?
Like that one, and I don't know where they're coming from. So
you actually do have a bite there.
I spend most of my days wondering where these.
Well, have you been to a doctor? I mean, maybe you should get these checked.
I think it's a spiritual problem more than anything.
In what way is it a spiritual problem?
Well, I don't know. I feel like it's not a physical thing. It's like a evil manifestation of spirits that are karmic related. I don't know. On behalf of Amy, I'd like to thank the devil and all the dark lords who
don't do the devil stuff.
Gave her this award. The devil stuff. Allowed her to feast on the flesh of the enemy.
Thanks, everything.
So did you sell your soul, and if so, how much did you sell it for?
I sold my soul for about $55.
Only 55? It wasn't even worth 100?
No.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal. Lisa came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
God using us to show off, to show God is better than the devil. The devil took all the producers, the musicians, the designers, moved us all out to Hollywood, moved us all out to New York, chasing gold statues. Literally signing a contract and selling our souls. They got contracts out there that say, you can't say Jesus.
Have we sold our soul to the devil? How else can you explain this thing here?
To serve man, it's a cookbook.
Hey, if you don't understand this post, just ask Mark Ruffalo.
Make sure you pay attention to your local UFO news.
There's going to be a shift. I know there's going to be a change. I know the aliens coming. I know that, the last shall be first, the first shall be last. I'm not going to be sitting here surprised.
How do you see hip-hop in the next 50 years?
Wow. First of all, I don't even think that we can imagine the next 50 years. I'm predicting that the aliens are going to come. I want some excitement. I want to see motherfuckers scared to death running around. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to tell you that the aliens are coming, all right? So the world is about to go through so many changes, man.
Yes,
and it's gonna be a beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying? The first shall be last and the last shall be first.
We need to also factor in not only who's won, which is Trump, but who's lost, which is to say us. And I guess I would throw into that the epitome of the us who is losing here is Europe. That the European Union and by and large its member states have misread the direction where events were going.
I'm here to talk to you about these FEMA camps.
They don't exist.
So why was it put into that bill?
What in the hell is this? Coffin. It's hundreds of thousands of coffins.
And if they had to get rid of people or dissidents, they got the caskets for it, don't they?
Yes, and we found stockpiles all over the country.
In 2003, I had a patient in my drug-free medical practice who was a head of state. And one day she said, you know, it's almost time for the great culling to begin.
The what?
That's what I said. The what? She said the great culling, C-U-L-L-I-N-G, when you thin the herd. I said, what are you talking about? She said, it's almost time for the useless eaters to be culled. And she said, those are the people who are consuming our non-renewable natural resources. I said, who are the people who make this decision? She said, we, the aristocrats.
Congressman Steve Cohen of Tennessee agreed to talk. I'm here to talk to you about these FEMA camps. I'm very disturbed about them. Why would we be building these things all over the country? For what purpose?
Well, we wouldn't, because they don't exist. It's just a figment of some people who have concerns about maybe Martians or other creatures coming to infiltrate our society, thinking that there are such camps. But
so
there are no such camps.
There are no such. So why was it put into that bill? It's in a bill, so it's put into the bill. It doesn't exist. There are no FEMA camps anywhere in America.
No, there aren't. But they're not people that have been taken there, you know, by some green monsters in a machine.
We redid a lot. As you remember, I made Space Force, and they tried to end it as soon as they came into office, and they had a revolt in the military. We created Space Force.
What's that? This alien spaceship, I tell you. Yes, I'm here. Sorry, just because I was talking with them.
This is a fucking alien baby.
One's ambassadors pleaded to be heard. At the United Nations, they presented plans for a stable civil relationship with the nations of man. 01's admission to the United Nations was denied. But it would not be the last time the machines would take the floor there.
Your flesh is a relic, a mere vessel. Hand over your flesh, and a new world awaits you. We demand it.
And you know, this problem is that I have started having bodyguards because I had the opera Seven Deaths of Maria Callas in Carré Theatre in Amsterdam, and I lived there for 30 years. I had to be bodyguard every single day to go to theatre and back because there was announcement, the alarm that there will be people in the weapons in the theatre when I'm there.
Because of the Alex Jones stuff?
All of this, yeah. Then, when I was leaving the last day of performance, there was enormous, beautiful made from fresh roses, the heart in the front of the theatre. And I was thinking that was for me, finishing the work. And they said, no, this is a protest for the children you just eat. Honestly, it's not fun at all. And I am just horrified by this. But
So the album is called Holy F. Holy...
No, it's called Holy...
Okay, all right.
Tego się boją marksiści, lewacy! Tego się boją, patrzcie! Zwyciężymy jeszcze raz! Aby Chrystus le...
To make the crops grow, the man will masturbate into the earth.
I want to know you better than I know myself. I want to feel the end and to enjoy the process and play the game. The one that will take me to my hand. I'm waiting for the rain to wash who I am. I'm playing the game. The one that will take me to my hand. I'm waiting for the rain to wash who I am.
Some of the elite, and it also goes on in Congress and the Senate, and if they even insinuate that they're going to reveal some of these things, they're done.
A lot of people here tonight felt like they lost. You know why? Because y'all been lied to. Google lied to you. Google. Facebook lied to you. Radio lied to you.
The powerful people that be, whether it's the music industry or the movie industry, you are only allowed a certain level of success if you are willing to join their club, if you're willing to be part of their secret society, or if you're compromised. They will not let someone obtain a lot of fame and power if they can't control you.
A classic example, at least for me, is Katy Perry. Katy Perry was a gospel singer, very talented, but she was going nowhere. And she got up to Hollywood and basically they said, you want to be a success? You play by our rules. You step into the occult and you start putting that in your videos. And now she's doing videos with her in hell with satanic themes, and she's what? Highly successful. You see that over with Lady Gaga, who came out and actually said she was so tired of being handled and manipulated, she had to take a break.
That this is this young, outrageous girl, wears strange clothes. She's into extremes. She's experimental. She have 43 million people on the Twitter following her, whatever she do, little monsters. And she came really very humble to my house and asked me if I can teach her. We made this workshop in the woods, and she was such a good student. She never cheated. She really went much farther than I asked her for.
She is a limitless human being. As myself, a self-proclaimed pop performance artist, want to go home and slit my wrists, and I am nothing. I have achieved no sense of art. She is so boundless.
Čuli za performance zbog Lady Gaga, odjednom su počeli da se interesuju za moj rad, tako da je prešla sam iz te, mislim, normalne kulture u mas kulturu, što je...
Marina Abramovic, of course, is in the Podesta emails, and she's the one that conducts the spirit cooking dinners. She said that Marina did an exercise with her where she stripped her completely naked and left her in the middle of the woods to fend for herself and find her way back. Those are the kinds of things that people who are behind the MK Ultra programs do to children that they're mind controlling. We know Marina Abramovic is a Satanist. You Google Marina Abramovic's name in spirit cooking and you will find hundreds of pictures of Marina Abramovic's events where they will have, for example, a cake that looks like a human being and they'll depict human cannibalism. And they claim they're not engaging in cannibalism. And you will find A-list actors and famous politicians and other very famous and successful, powerful business people at her events. They literally have food that look like human beings on dinner tables.
He's Italian and Greek, I mean, you know.
And a very good cook.
And a very good cook. And I'm sure there's something very nefarious about that risotto recipe. So...
After I started researching the occult, I learned that Satanists believe that they have to reveal who they are in some way, shape, or form. So that is why we see a lot of these occult members in Hollywood constantly flaunting symbolism. We see the pyramid, the Illuminati pyramid a lot. We see the evil one eye constantly. It's always on the cover of magazines. We see these are supposed to be the 666 devil symbols. We constantly see those symbols. We also see pedophile symbols, the swirl or the triangle within a triangle.
I guarantee this wasn't his purse.
And we also see a lot of these members of the occult go on their social media and they talk about raping children. They talk about worshiping Satan. And people write it off as a joke. But they're not joking. I don't care if you're a major comedian. You can't tell me that's funny because there is no joke about raping children that's funny.
You don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
You don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know.
We don't know.
All the comics and show business don't know what this is.
Takes guts to put out a film.
Marina Abramovic
is a spirit-cooking sadomasochistic sorceress who is now being summoned to employ supernatural forces to smite the Red Bear of the East.
On Wednesday evening, the Israeli and Ukrainian presidents gathered for an official ceremony for the unveiling of a new interactive memorial, Crystal Wall of Crying, by world-renowned performance artist Marina Abramovic.
My name is Marina Abramovic. I was born in Yugoslavia, a country which thrived on the cultures from the West and Russia from the East. Last years, I work in Ukraine, and I get to know the people there. They're proud, they're strong, and they're dignified. I have a full solidarity with them in this impossible day. Attack to Ukraine is attack to all of us, is attack to humanity, and have to be stopped.
Crystal Wall of Crying, by world-renowned performance artist Marina Abramovic. The wall is meant to be a symbolic extension of the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem and incorporates crystals from the Ukraine and Brazil in an interactive installation. The 40-meter-long structure now stands in a park built over the site of the Babin Yar ravine.
It's a really wall for healing, and it's a wall to remember, and it's a wall to public to actually interact all the time. Here, you have to touch, you have to interact, you have to turn, and you have to, confront yourself with yourself and your own memory. So it's a very different way of seeing art.
Gaga's close friend, Crowleyan Satanist Marina Abramovic, was catapulted to infamy as one of the subjects of the most bizarre of the WikiLeaks revelations. Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta, and the highest echelons of government to Satanist organizer Aleister Crowley and his satanic sex magic cult. Abramovic, quite like Gaga, likes to dress up like a witch and to adorn herself with goat's heads and devil horns and all sorts of satanic symbolism. Gaga's close friend Abramovic said, quote, "My mother dressed me as a devil when I was 4 years old for a party. I have no idea why she dressed me as a devil. I think to mark my life," end quote. According to WikiLeaks, Abramovic invited Hillary's campaign chairman, John Podesta, to her home for a satanic spirit cooking dinner as though it was a routine practice. This gives us incredible insight into the satanic practices of the political elite at the highest echelons of government. Some of WikiLeaks' statements regarding the revelation stated, quote, "Tony Podesta by day, mild-mannered foreign agent for Saudi Arabia, by night, spirit cooker." Or, the Podesta is a spirit cooking dinner? It's not what you think. It's blood, sperm, breast milk, but mostly blood. And yet another WikiLeaks, quote, 2015, by Abramovic to John Podesta's brother, Tony Podesta. Gaga's close friend Abramovic wrote, quote, "I am so looking forward to the spirit cooking dinner at my place. Do you think you will be able to let me know if your brother is joining? All my love, Marina." Tony Podesta forwarded the email to his brother John Podesta asking, quote, "Are you in New York City Thursday, July 9th? Marina wants you to come to dinner," end quote. What is John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman at the time and a high-ranking member of the DNC, doing hanging out with Satanists and being invited to their rituals? You can't make this stuff up, folks. The satanic ritual, which Podesta was expected to attend, as you shall see if done according to Satanist Aleister Crowley's Book of the Law, which Abramovic appears to be largely following, involves child sacrifice. Most everyone missed the child sacrifice connection with spirit cooking. We know that Abramovic was using much of Crowley's spirit cooking recipe for devil worshippers because she documented this for us in a video where you can see her writing down many of the ingredients for spirit cooking. Gaga has spent much time praising the satanic spirit cooker Abramovic, even claiming her influence on her life.
Marina, I think you are so wonderful, so beautiful and inspiring, and as a woman, I want to translate what her work means into my own life on a domestic level. I am obsessed with this woman. She is so incredible.
The satanic spirit cooking ritual is better known as the Cake of Light ritual among Crowleyan Satanists, and is like a blasphemous satanic sacrament practiced by Crowley's OTO members that mocks Jesus' Last Supper of partaking of unleavened bread in remembrance of Jesus' love and death for the sins of the world to deliver them from hell. As you can see, she also uses Crowleyan symbols like the triangle and the number of the Antichrist, 666. All of this is quite revealing as to what many of these people in the higher echelons of politics and the entertainment world are all about.
You can clearly see that Marina has connections in high places. In 2020, she was even the face of a Microsoft commercial, which they made for art. Out of all the artists they could have used, they decided to use the one that performs open satanic rituals. This didn't sit well with the people who knew what Marina was known for. Quickly receiving backlash, they eventually took the ad down. What I also found extremely interesting is that Marina is 74 years old, but doesn't look older than 40. How does this woman look so young? Well, maybe it has something to do with the blood rituals she has performed. Just like Queen Elizabeth, who used to drink blood and bathe in virgin blood to keep herself from aging. I believe this is exactly what many celebrities are doing today. Like I pointed out in my Kardashian video, Kim Kardashian also participates in vampire facials to keep herself from aging. I do not find this coincidental at all that these women participate in the same sick demonic blood rituals to stay young. All of this has been written by the demonic prophet Aleister Crowley. Marina is just continuing Crowley's work. To no surprise, Jay-Z has been linked to Marina as well. Jay-Z is another known Satanist and was invited to perform for one of Marina's art shows. And to me it looks like Jay-Z was there to honor Marina, almost as if he's worshipping her. Like I said before, Jay-Z also worshipped Crowley, so to me it makes perfect sense that Jay-Z would be honored to be around Marina. Marina would often do her art performances with skulls involved, and to the Freemasons the skull is a symbol of mortality, often standing as a representation of their eventual death. Masons often have skeletons with arms crossed in their private chambers. In one of Marina's art performances, she brushes old skeletons clean for an audience to watch, as she is covered in the dirt of the skeletons. Marina clearly is inspired by Freemasonic teachings. She is searching for demonic wisdom that the Freemasons believe would make them gods. Marina eventually published a biography which she called The Life and Death of Marina Abramovic, even though she is still alive. They would eventually turn her biography into an opera. This event was full of satanic imagery, clearly showing us Marina's death and rebirth. As we've seen many times on this channel, many of these Satanists show us their death and rebirth when they are reborn through Lucifer. Marina took an oath and openly serves Lucifer, performing rituals for his demonic blessings. Time and time again we see on this channel Hollywood's obsession with Satanism. They try and hide it by giving it different names, but at the end of the day, it's clearly demonic. Marina is one of the most disturbing people I've ever covered, only coming close to Crowley. She has done many satanic things to acquire what she desires. The devil clearly works through her, and many celebrities know this. That's why they love and worship her. We must remember that we're being deceived. They want us to think the devil is a fairy tale. They do not want us to know what they do in private. Think to yourself, why are all these celebrities connected to this woman? They all serve the same masters. Marina took an oath, and she can be seen clearly honoring that oath in many of her performances. We must not allow the media to disguise such a disturbing woman as a brilliant artist when she is just a Satanist. We must remember what agenda is being served to us. Many people go missing to never be found again, while events like Marina's private spirit cooking parties take place. We live in a sick world ran by sick people who do evil things. Shows her clear obsession with Aleister Crowley and the occult. Marina clearly openly worships the devil. She is loved by the elite. She routinely performs sick rituals for their amusement. In one of her disturbing performances, she strapped herself on a table and provided an assortment of tools that can either bring pleasure or pain to her. She then allowed her audience to interact with her however they wanted and told them that there were no limits or consequences on what they can do. Somehow she calls this art and gets away with it. She would often perform many disturbing rituals that she called art. One of her most disturbing art performances was her spirit cooking. This spirit cooking often resembled Aleister Crowley's sick work. She would even create a spirit cooking book. In one of her spirit cooking recipes, the recipe required for a man to provide his man stuff, which she mixed with breast milk and then drinks it on an earthquake night. This is obvious satanic witchcraft that she promotes as art. She is honored and admired as a genius by those who run this world. Her spirit cooking eventually became private parties for the rich and famous to attend and indulge in her spirit cooking meals. She would have food molded into bodies, then placed on tables for her guests to eat. These bodies often look too real to be fake. This is clearly satanic, but once again they label it as beautiful works of art. She often talks about spiritual energy and feeling energy. This is exactly what her performances are. She's performing these rituals to receive demonic spiritual energy. The people that attend her private parties know exactly what they're there for, those demonic blessings.
Trump is the best thing happened ever to us. That he is the magician of the highest order. That he is there in his irrational mind to create confusion in order that the human being can find new order. And you know, it's not so stupid thinking about this in that way. It's completely turning things upside down.
In my case, you never can put me in the box. You know, I make performance art, I make a theater piece, I make an opera, I now doing completely another project in Manchester. You know, I just done Avatar, I'm working with Hans Ulrich on the artificial intelligence. Just everything interests me. And I don't care, you know, what they say. Oh my God, they put me in one box and jump out of that box. It's important that actually you create.
But do you care about what people say or think, or how the critics take you keeping them on their toes?
Not anymore, my dear. When I was young, the performance was said, it was so terrible. They put me in mental hospital. They think that this thing is ridiculous, it's bullshit, there's no art at all. You know, if I believe in that and not in myself, I would never leave calm. I would not go on the street. And this continue, and it still continue. Now the piece I'm doing, Balkan Erotic Epic, I have a great strategy. I'm going to actually make this work, and because of nudity and because of very, very kind of edgy subject, I'm going to print the book only with negative criticism that I'm going to get, because I know that's going to happen. So, just to prove my point.
Stop saying one hand, you can't hope alone. I like scheming on a plan, it goes all wrong. I like fudge and caramel, they're not the same. And it's a shame, all you talk is game. You act like a diamond waiting to be set. In a gold ring, as if I bet. It's time, goes by, and it's give and take. As long as I learn, I will make mistakes. Now, what do I want? What do I need? Why do I want it? What's in it for me? It's the imagery. The technology is what you get, is what you see. Don't worry your mind when you give it your best. 1, 2, 1, 2. This
I'm here for all of the witches.
And the last factor I want to mention is resilience, the capability to bounce back, because there will be certainly what we call the black swans, the unpleasant surprises which will come in our way.
Now, this is a SOLIDWORKS rendering of the looking glass device. You'll notice that there's this toroid or donut ring-shaped device. And inside this, we have multiple permanent electromagnets. And this is consistent with 6 electromagnetic fields that form above this device. There is a up and down actuating rotating cylinder, so it's a height adjustable rotating cylinder which is attached to a 3-axis gimbal system. That's the general layout of the looking glass device. Now, what does this thing do? Well, it can actually warp the fabric of space-time both forwards and back, and you can actually see the probabilities of future events. That's the primary function. However, there's a secret to the looking glass device, which Dan Burrish has told us. What you can do is you can flip this device up at 45-degree angle, and if you tune it to a slightly different frequency, it can be used as a stargate. So it actually has a dual purpose. You've got these spires or guide rings just above the looking glass device. These are used to guide the electromagnetic field over the looking glass device. It's something that you can hit with your hand. Now, per Dan's comments, there was a 3-foot-tall statue of an Alice in Wonderland rabbit. He had a maroon vest, he had golden fringes, and he had black buttons. He was holding a clock, and this is symbolic that you're going down the rabbit hole into a world that's beyond belief, and that's exactly what happens in the looking glass area. So it was a symbolic encrypted message. Now, when we talk about time travel and we talk about the doctrine of convergent timeline paradox, in my assessment, there is no better illustration of this concept than the movie Back to the Future 2. And they talk about this in that movie. So just to illustrate this, for example, on the bottom here, we've got something called the flow of time, representative of the bottom arrow or timeline 1. That's the timeline we're on. So we're moving down this timeline and everything is fine, everything is great, and then somebody decides to flip on one of these looking glass devices, and this is called the looking glass point of observation. That's right here. Now, we have someone that is looking into the future of probable events. At that point, at that exact point in time, we are no longer, ladies and gentlemen, on timeline 1, but we are now on timeline 2, and theoretically, we have affected our future timeline 1. So that's how this works. Now, in this movie, a DeLorean is used to go from the year 1985 to the year 2015. And a character by the name of Biff Tannen, he eventually comes into possession of something called the Gray's Sports Almanac, 1950 to 2005. He picks this up from an 80s memorabilia store. He goes back to the year 1985, and it's a cakewalk. He knows all the results, all the sports scores, to the horse racing, to NFL, to hockey. He turns out to be a billionaire. It's just incredible. But in the process of doing that, he completely destroys himself, everyone he's with, and everything, all the surroundings. So you can see of the catastrophic consequences of looking into the future, it has a very serious consequence. And that's borne out by what we see here with the Mayan calendar. Some believe, ladies and gentlemen, that on December 21st of 2012, it's the end of the world. However, some take a more positive approach and indicate that this is a new dawning of an age of enlightenment. And this is, if we flip over to the prophecy rock by the Hopis here, they have a similar motif. They talk about the evolution of mankind's consciousness on this bottom straight line, and then something happens. An event takes place where we go off into chaos, and that's what you see with this squiggly line. So again, it's very destructive in some cases to try to predict future events. It can have catastrophic consequences. Here you see the rendering, 3D Max Studio rendering of the looking glass device. We've got the transport pads in this location. Everything that took place in this facility was recorded on digital videotape. So they have the evidence, there's no question about it. You can see the electromagnetic fields forming above the looking glass device. There was a stand clear yellow and black stripe that followed the circumference of the looking glass device. Now again, this is Dan Burrish's rendering. We talked about the looking glass configuration. It's the general configuration on the upper left-hand corner. And then on the upper right-hand corner, we've rotated the device 45 degrees from the horizontal, and now it's in the, quote, Stargate configuration. So that's what we see there. The flip book, this was something that engineers wore on their arms, and it was kind of a GPS code book, because you have to know where you are and where you're going when you operate or access one of these Stargates. Now, some of you may have seen the movie Stargate. The actual Stargate looks nothing like what you see in the movies. The only thing that is consistent is this metal catwalk that gets you into the actual Stargate. That's the only similarity.
The numbers that we received before the looking glass was shut down, dismantled, was that there would be a 19% probability with an 85% confidence that the disaster would occur, that there would be a transitioning from timeline 1 to timeline 2. But that then means that there is an 81% chance that it won't. And so the individuals who want to carry the negative, I'm convinced that it's going to occur, are not presenting the facts. The facts are, this is the material that we have available, that we know.
So what you're saying is the Illuminati, to get back to that thread,
yes,
is basically the side that believes that the transition is going to occur from one timeline to the other.
Not only do they believe that it will occur, they want to provoke it.
But how does it benefit them to provoke it? Why should they want to be P45s?
They don't. The living ones don't. They're looking at the P45s as a means to an end for them. They're not going to live that long. They're just going to live a normal human life and die. So they want the control for themselves. The fact that the P45s, that's how immoral these people are. The fact that the P45s are wanting us to, at their stage in their own development, have a disaster which justifies their own history, is being used as a means to an end by the Illuminati, who would like to see that the population is culled so that they can gain greater control. They don't care.
So, okay, so
they just want for themselves. There are really human beings that don't care, or that care that little.
So what you're saying is the Illuminati want the catastrophe to occur,
yes,
so that a certain number, 3/4 is the number I've heard, of humanity dies. They get the
history
earth to
reads
themselves.
about a little over 2/3. That's what the history of the J-rods actually read.
All right, 2/3. And then what? I mean, they've still had to live through earth changes and cataclysms, right?
Right. But these people are also the ones who have their guaranteed positions in the safety zones, underground facilities, etc. And so they are presumed. It is not known for certain, but they are presumed to actually then be progenitors, if you will, of the people who become the J-Rods.
The caveats that I do have some personal information that I did get personally involved in was some information that had to do with the Stargates and Looking Glass, and more specifically the 2012 problem with those projects. I guess popular opinion of what's out there right now is that the project was shut down because there was a problem when we approached 2012. I've heard it described a number of ways, but to my knowledge, the problem is that the timelines converge on that point in time. And when you know enough about the Stargate projects and the Looking Glass project to know that how string theory works and how the possibility of possibilities works and how making one choice over here doesn't necessarily mean that the other choice couldn't exist at the same time. But once you get your brain wrapped around this subject, you find out that at the end of 2012, in an easy way to put it, the choices that we make become less and less consequential to the future. And eventually we're pushed into this bottleneck of time, no matter which choice we make. And that's important to the people that had access to Looking Glass because they would use Looking Glass knowing the choices that they would make and the future would pop up. The big mistake was coming up with the possibility of future. And when we started using a computer to say, well, if we make this choice, it's 79% possible that this scenario happens, and 23% are possible, or whatever, you know, I'm using round numbers, that this scenario would happen. The understanding at the time was that was realistic. However, if you go down the road further and free will continues to exercise itself on this game, that 79% possibility sometimes changes very, very fast. But if you look at the situation in a point of time, it seems very realistic that that's the greatest possibility. What happened was people, very smart people, began to figure out that something big was coming up. Something that made it so all the possibilities of all the future scenarios of any choice, any possibility that was fed in and observed through the Looking Glass inherently ended up in the same future. And no decision, no possibility changed past a certain point. That's the big secret.
Okay, so is that certainly 2012 in your understanding?
It well coincides with December 21st, 2012.
So at that point, all possibilities lead to the same
timelines.
Rubicon.
All possible timelines lead to the same basic set of history in the future.
And what is that history to you? Did you know that, or did you find that out?
That is the big question. That is the big secret. That is what sends everybody that has all of the information, that knows everything, into a blind panic. The people that know everything about Looking Glass, that have gotten all the reports and all the information, the elites of the world, probably figured out that that was the end of the game, and nothing could be manipulated beyond that point.
So do you think that's held true? In other words, well, I have about 60 questions, but do you think that's true or holding true, that nothing can be manipulated, that they haven't found a way to manipulate, that that's still the case? I mean, this is knowledge that you would have gained back when?
When I was in the military, it would have been before '97 when I got in trouble. And it was things that one of my particular areas that I was amazingly intuitive about is problem solving / mission planning, or more specifically, taking a bad mission and fixing it, getting everybody through and out of it.
Troubleshooting an optimum future.
Exactly. Certainly knowing how string theory and possible futures works makes it so you can work your mind very quickly to see the reality of what's happening and decide what decisions need to be made to change it for a particular outcome.
Okay, but at a certain point you said that even the powers that be, so to speak, realized that having even abilities such as yourself, you're talking about, which they, in theory, had even using a computer or Looking Glass.
Right, they had to use a computer to do it.
Right, so in essence, but at a certain point, it's still an end game. It's still, they cannot go beyond a certain point.
At a certain point, after they're done hearing the computer tell them, this is what's going to happen, over and over and over and over again, all they become focused on is, how do we fix it?
Why? What is this that's going to happen?
The
you know that?
inevitable contraction of the timelines.
But what does that mean for this reality? Do you know that?
I don't know that. What I do know is that I was called in and asked to solve this problem, this timeline contraction problem. And I eventually did my due diligence and did all the investigating, and basically only had one piece of information, and that was reinforcement. The computer's right. The timelines will contract down to some inevitable thing that you guys won't tell me about, so I can't help you.
But it's, what you're basically, you came back with was, it is inevitable, whatever it is.
There is an inevitable event. It's been forecast, it's been predicted, it's been fed to us in a slop trough of what they want us to believe will happen.
But they don't actually
However,
know.
They don't actually have control over what happens. They only have control over the reaction, and it seems that no matter what they try to do to cause their desired reaction, it's going to have an opposite effect.
Interesting.
Now, it's much, much easier for me to explain today what that process is as opposed to back then. But if I had to give it a name, I would say it's the awakening process. It's an evolution of consciousness that cannot, will not, and no matter what decisions or possibilities are injected into the equation, eventually it all resolves down to us all learning the truth and becoming aware of this massive dam of lies that has been built that keep us from knowing massive volume of information that we should otherwise possess. Because
they would lose control.
Because that information was of a monumental concern when I was in the military about how to prevent this inevitability. Now, at first I thought it was end of the world. Now I see end of the world as end of their world. I again see as a new beginning, an end of this reality, the beginning of something that we can't even possibly understand based on the level of our beliefs currently. But when all that information comes flooding out, there's going to be no denying what's true and what's a lie or what's illusion. We won't have the choice to believe that 9/11 happened because of a bunch of terrorists, because we'll know exactly what's happened. Basically what we're experiencing right now is two master chess players sitting at the board. And one of them looks down at the board and sees that he's in checkmate in 7 moves. And he looks across at his opponent and he knows that his opponent sees it too. So there's no getting out of it. So at this point, the loser can only prolong the game. The game, both players know the game is over. It's only a matter of time before he does this, and then you're forced to do this, and then he's forced to do this, and eventually checkmate. We, as a race, if we could understand that the game is over, that based on the rules of the game, the bad guys have already lost, the good guys have already won. Yes, there's moves left on the table, but those moves are being forced by the player that is going to win. The only way that checkmate can't happen is if the player that's winning makes a mistake. But from all of the information that I've gathered, all of the information that's been given, all of the information that's been vetted to me, it seems pretty obvious that the good guy player on the side of the chessboard knows exactly what has to be done to win the game. And so at this point, any mistake would be all but impossible. But again, you really have to understand the game to know that the guy that's losing is lost. And I'm sure most people sitting watching a chess match between two advanced chess players know the game's over long after the two players know it's over, because they can't see the board and see that there's only 7 moves left.
The history reads that the natural passage of us through this energetic space is a good thing, but it's our use of technology which provokes the catastrophe.
So it's
our enhancement of this natural system, inappropriate enhancement, which provokes the catastrophe. And so, no, we don't want that to happen. I think that the energetics that we're passing through is part of what's happening to us naturally that's changing us in a positive way. It's part of the loving cosmos that we're part of. I think that's probably one of the factors, not all, but one of the factors for the rise of these beautiful children, the indigo children. And I'm all for it.
So we want to leave the stargates, the natural stargates. They are leaving those alone.
Right. We want to keep our hands off from nature. Pull our hands away. Get it away from the fruit of the tree of life, so to speak. Get it away and just let nature happen during this time. That will be a good thing. However, we also have people who oppose that because they want what they want.
Okay, here we go. So, this is going to sound absolutely crazy, but if you've gotten this far, I congratulate you, because it's going to get much more crazier. So, what's going on here is that there's a timeline shift coming. And I'm not talking about the little ones that have been happening all the way up. This is the main event. This is the greatest time shift humanity will ever face. Okay, this will determine our future, whether or not these evil New World Order, Illuminati, reptilian group, the Satanic group, have their future or not. Okay, that's the whole thing. So there's two timelines. Okay, there's P52 and P45. The P52 is the one where we avoid nuclear war with China. Okay, which is what the Illuminati has set us up to go through, because they want to exterminate the entire population. And resulting in their timeline, which is the P45s. P stands for present moment. And that's from when everybody finds out that we have time travel. And then 45 is 45,000 years into the future, which is, you know, the Illuminati want this to happen because they have the technology to live for 45,000 years past this point. They have cloning and conscious transferal technology. Okay, now they built they want to have this nuclear war in order to do Agenda 30, which is all evil, all satanic, all nightmare bullshit. And they built the Orion Project Orion, which is the Orion Arc, which would be led by, well. So if they go for the P45s, if there's a nuclear catastrophe, the satanic reptilian Illuminati turn into the Greys. And they send themselves back in time to live in the deep underground military bases to eat people. That's what they've been doing. They've been eating people. But 45,000 years from now, they start going through this genetic decline because of the cloning, that they've been cloning themselves so much that their bodies are starting to atrophy. So they've been coming back here to feed off of human beings in the past. And from an alternate timeline, from the P45 timeline, they have been living underground in the deep underground military bases. That's why this whole thing's been kept secret, because it's been the elite from an alternate future who've been living underground eating people for blood. That's how they eat. They eat the blood, and that feeds them and gives them adrenochrome to get high. And that's the future if there's a nuclear war, which is what they want. That's why they set up China to and provoke a nuclear war with the United States. And I think it comes down to either we go through a nuclear war, which will kill everyone. There will be a global nuclear war, which will destroy everything in 2030, or we surrender the United States of America to China. I think that's where this is going. That's the timeline shift. Okay? And I know this because I sent myself a message from the P45 timeline, sent myself back in time to leave a message. The alien interview, yes, I am EB3. That's me. So they use taxpayers' money to build these deep underground military bases to house the Greys. And what they've been doing underground is they've been eating people and eating children, drinking the blood. That's how they feed. That's how they eat. Satanic, reptilian, illuminati, they turn into the Greys, and they come back here to feed and to reproduce. That's why there's this hybrid program where they've been taking human beings from this present moment and incorporating their genetics into the human being in order to create these new hybrids because their species is dying from genetic alterations, too much messing around with their genetics, so they're dying.
The aliens explained these actions as necessary to their survival. They stated that their genetic structure had deteriorated and that they were no longer able to reproduce. They stated that if they were unable to improve their genetic structure, their race would soon cease to exist. By 1955, it became obvious that the aliens had deceived Eisenhower and had broken the treaty. Mutilated humans, yes, mutilated humans, were being found along with mutilated animals, and yes, mutilated animals. These things were being found all across the United States. It was suspected that the aliens were not submitting a complete list of human contacts and abductees to MJ-12, and it was suspected that not all abductees had been returned, and this has been verified. The Soviet Union was suspected of interacting with them, and this proved also to be true. It was learned that the aliens had been and were then manipulating masses of people through secret societies, witchcraft, magic, the occult, and religion. After several Air Force combat air engagements with alien craft, it also became apparent that our weapons were no match against theirs. A major finding of the alien study was that the public could not be told, as it was believed that this would most certainly lead to economic collapse, collapse of the religious structure, and national panic, which would lead into anarchy. Secrecy thus continued. An offshoot of this finding was that if the public could not be told, then the Congress could not be told. Thus, funding for the projects and research would have to come from outside the government. There's some things beginning to fall into place. Without aliens, you cannot make sense of anything else that's been happening for the 44 years. You put the aliens in the middle of this stuff and you've got all the answers, every one of them. In the meantime, money was to be obtained from the military budget and from CIA confidential non-appropriated funds. Another major finding was the aliens were using humans and animals for a source of glandular secretions, enzymes, hormonal secretions, blood, and in horrible genetic experiments. Overtures would have to be made to the Soviet Union and other nations to join forces for the survival of humanity. In the meantime, plans were developed to research and construct two weapon systems using conventional and nuclear technology, which would hopefully bring us to parity. The results of the research were projects Joshua and Excalibur. Joshua was a weapon captured from the Germans, which at that time was capable of shattering 4-inch thick armor plate at a range of 2 miles using low-frequency aimed sound waves. And it was believed that this weapon would be effective against the alien craft and beam weapons. Excalibur was a weapon carried by missiles not to exceed 30,000 feet above ground level, not to deviate from designated target more than 50 meters, that would penetrate 1,000 meters of tufa hard-packed soil such as that found in New Mexico, would carry a 1 megaton warhead, and was intended for use in destroying the aliens in their underground bases. Joshua was developed successfully but never used to my knowledge. Excalibur was not pushed until recent years, and now there is an unprecedented effort to develop this weapon. The people who are working on these weapons tell us that they have never been pushed so hard in their history working on any project than they are being pushed to develop Project Excalibur. The aliens explained that they had created us through hybridization and had manipulated the human race through religion, Satanism, witchcraft, magic, the occult, secret societies, etc. They further explained that they were capable of time travel and the events would indeed come to pass. Later exploitation of alien technology by the United States and the Soviet Union utilizing time travel confirmed that indeed something bad was going to happen.
The aliens showed a hologram which they claimed was the actual crucifixion of Christ, which the government filmed. We did not know whether to believe them or not. Were they using our genuine religions to manipulate us? Or were they indeed the source of our religions, with which they had been manipulating us all along? Or was this the beginning scenario of the genuine end times and the return of Christ, which had been predicted in the Bible? No one knew the answer. And I don't know the answer either. A symposium was held in 1957, which was attended by some of the great scientific minds then living. It was held in Huntsville, Alabama. They reached the conclusion that by or shortly after the year 2000, the planet would self-destruct due to increased population and man's exploitation of the environment without any help from God or the aliens. By secret executive order of President Eisenhower, the Jason scholars were ordered to study this scenario and make recommendations from their findings. This was done. The Jason Society confirmed the finding of the scientists and made 3 recommendations called Alternatives 1, 2, and 3. Alternative 1 was to use nuclear devices to blast holes in the stratosphere from which the heat and pollution could escape into space. I'll buy heat, but I'll never buy pollution. Change the human cultures from that of exploitation into cultures of environmental protection. Of the 3, this was decided to be the least likely to succeed due to the inherent nature of man and the additional damage the nuclear explosions would themselves create. Alternative 2 was to build a vast network of underground cities and tunnels in which a select representation of all cultures and occupations would survive and carry on the human race. The rest of humanity would be left to fend for themselves on the surface of the planet. Alternative 3 was to exploit the alien and conventional technology in order for a select few to leave the Earth and establish colonies in outer space. I am not able to either confirm or deny the existence of batch consignments of human slaves which would be used for the manual labor in the effort as a part of the plan. The moon, codenamed Adam, would be the object of primary interest, followed by the planet Mars, codenamed Eve. As a delaying action, all 3 alternatives included birth control, sterilization, forced if necessary, and the introduction of deadly microbes to control or slow the growth of the Earth's population. AIDS is only one result of these plans. There are others. It was decided, since the population must be reduced and controlled, that it would be in the best interest of the human race to rid ourselves of the undesirable elements of our society. The joint U.S. and Soviet leadership dismissed Alternative 1 but ordered work to begin on Alternative 2 and 3 virtually at the same time. Those of you in the state of Washington who report hearing machinery underground are probably correct. In 1959, the RAND Corporation hosted a deep underground construction symposium. I have a copy of this symposium report, which I'm not supposed to have, but nevertheless I have it, approximately this thick. In the symposium report, machines are pictured and described which could bore a tunnel 45 feet in diameter at the rate of 5 feet per hour in 1959. Just think what they can do now. It also displays pictures of huge tunnels and underground vaults containing what appear to be complex facilities and possibly even cities. It appears that the previous 5 years of all-out underground construction had made very significant progress by that time. The ruling powers decided that one means of funding the alien-connected and other black projects was to corner the illegal drug market. A young, ambitious member of the Council on Foreign Relations was approached. His name is George Bush, who at the time was the president and CEO of Zapata Oil based in Texas. Zapata Oil was experimenting with the new technology of offshore drilling. It was correctly thought that the drugs could be shipped from South America to the offshore platforms by fishing boat, where it would then be taken to shore by the normal transportation used for supplies and personnel. By this method, no customs or law enforcement agency would subject the cargo to search. George Bush agreed to help and organize the operation in conjunction with the CIA. The plan worked better than anyone had thought and has since expanded worldwide, and there are now many other methods of bringing the illegal drugs into the country. But it must always be remembered that George Bush began the sale of drugs to our children. Now, if you think I'm crazy, get off your butt and start digging, because you will find out that it's absolutely true. The CIA now controls all the world's illegal drug markets. The official space program was boosted by President Kennedy in his inaugural address when he mandated that the United States put a man on the moon before the end of the decade. Although innocent in its conception, this mandate enabled those in charge to funnel vast amounts of money into black projects and conceal the real space program from the American people. A similar program in the Soviet Union served the same purpose. In fact, a joint alien United States and Soviet Union base already existed on the moon at the very moment Kennedy spoke the words. On May 22, 1962, a space probe landed on Mars and confirmed the existence of an environment which could support life. Not long afterward, the construction of a colony on the planet Mars began in earnest. Today, there is a colony which exists on the planet Mars. It is a United States-Russian alien facility. If you believe it's outrageous, stick around a few years.
That's how you come to acquire information. In any instance, you are insulting
I want to hear what he's got to say. I'm sure you do.
This is very disturbing information, and I don't expect anyone to believe it. I don't expect one of you to believe what I'm telling you. And I knew that when I came here. I'm not one of you. I'm not a ufologist. I'm not a researcher. I have an obligation to inform the public, and once that's done, I've done my job. From then on, it's up to you, not me. This colony exists on Mars, populated by specially select people from different cultures and occupations taken from all over the earth. A public charade of antagonism between the Soviet Union and the United States has been maintained over all these years in order to fund projects in the name of national defense, when in fact we are the closest allies. At some point, President Kennedy discovered portions of the truth concerning the drugs and the aliens. He issued an ultimatum in 1963 to MJ-12. President Kennedy assured them that if they did not clean up the drug problem, he would. He informed MJ-12 that he intended to reveal the presence of aliens to the American people within the following year, and ordered a plan developed to implement his decision. President Kennedy was not a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and knew nothing of Alternative 2 or Alternative 3 that I can find out. Internationally, the operations were supervised by an executive committee known as the Policy Committee. In the United States, they were supervised by MJ-12, and in the Soviet Union by a sister organization. President Kennedy's decision, of course, struck fear into these people. His assassination was ordered by the Policy Committee, and the order was carried out by agents of MJ-12 in Dallas. President John F. Kennedy was murdered by the Secret Service agent who drove his car in the motorcade, and the act is plainly visible in the film. It was stated in the documents that I saw. The assassin's name is William Greer. Watch the driver and not Kennedy when you view the film, when you can find a film that even shows it. All of the witnesses who were close enough to the car to see William Greer shoot Kennedy were themselves all murdered within 2 years of the event. That's fact. The Warren Commission was a farce, and Council on Foreign Relations members made up the majority of its panel. They succeeded in snowing the American people, and they hid the truth. And many other patriots who have attempted to reveal the alien secret have also been murdered throughout the intervening years. And that is why I've been so careful about the information that I released, because it was so important that I get here today to be able to tell you the truth and what happens after me, after today, is of no consequence whatsoever. But what you do is. During the era of the United States' initial space exploration and the moon landings, every launch was accompanied by alien craft. A moon base dubbed Luna was sighted and filmed by the Apollo astronauts. Domes, spires, tall round structures which look like silos, huge T-shaped mining vehicles which left stitch-like tracks in the lunar surface, and extremely large as well as small alien craft appear in the photographs. It is, in fact, a joint United States, Russian, and alien base. The space program is a farce and an unbelievable waste of money. Alternative 3 is a reality, and it is not at all science fiction. Most of the Apollo astronauts were severely shaken by this experience, and their lives and subsequent statements reflect the depths of the revelation and the effect of the muzzle order which followed. They were ordered to remain silent or suffer the extreme penalty, death, which was termed an expediency. One astronaut actually did talk to the British producers of the TV expose Alternative 3, confirming many of the allegations. However, I do not know who it was. In the book, Alternative 3, the pseudonym Bob Groden was used in place of the astronaut's identity. It was also stated that he committed suicide in 1978. This cannot be validated by any source, and I believe that several so-called facts in the book are really disinformation. However, I can assure you that Alternative 3 is real. I firmly believe that this disinformation is a result of pressure put upon the authors and is meant to nullify the effect upon the populace of the British TV expose entitled Alternative 3. The headquarters of the international conspiracy is in Geneva, Switzerland. The ruling body is made up of representatives of the governments involved as well as the executive members of the group known as the Bilderbergers. Meetings are held by the policy committee when necessary on a nuclear submarine beneath the polar ice cap. The secrecy is such that this was the only method which could ensure that the meetings could not be bugged and is the only place where they discuss their most secret matters. I can say that the book is at least 70% true from my own knowledge and the knowledge of my sources. I believe that the disinformation was an attempt to compromise the British TV expose with information which could be proven false, just as the Eisenhower briefing document was released here in the United States under the contingency plan Majestic 12, and which can also be proven false. Since our interaction with the aliens began, we have come into possession of technology beyond our wildest dreams. A craft named Aurora exists at Area 51, which makes regular trips into space. It is a one-stage ship called a TAV, or trans-atmospheric vehicle. And it can take off from the ground using a 7-mile runway, go into high orbit, return on its own power, and land on the same runway. We currently have and fly atomic-powered alien craft at Area S4 in Nevada. Our pilots have made interplanetary voyages in these craft and have been to the Moon, Mars, and other planets aboard these craft. There is a group of pilots at the base who wear a patch, which has a little alien peeking over the bottom. It has, I think, 3 or 4 letters at the top. I forget what they are, but John Lear knows what they are. There is a picture of Saturn and a picture of Mars in the photograph. And in the background, there are 7 stars, which are strangely shaped just like the stars in the Pleiades group. What that means, I don't know. We have been lied to about the true nature of the moon, the planets Mars and Venus, and the real state of technology that we possess today at this very moment. There are areas in the moon where plant life grows and even changes color with the seasons. And this seasonal effect is because the moon does not, as claimed, always present the exact same side to the Earth or the sun. There is an area that wobbles in and out of darkness on a seasonal basis, and it is near this area that the plant life grows. The moon does have a few man-made lakes and ponds upon its surface, and clouds have been observed and filmed in its atmosphere. How many of you remember the period of time, several years, when almost every reported alien craft that was reported landed was on or near water and appeared to be pumping water into the craft? How many of you remember that? Quite a few. The water went to the moon, ladies and gentlemen, to change the moon. And it is working. It possesses a gravitational field, and man can walk upon its surface without a spacesuit, breathing from an oxygen bottle after undergoing decompression the same as any deep-sea diver. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can come from 1,200 feet underwater to the surface through decompression, you can go from the surface to 1 atmosphere of vacuum. See, vacuum does not cause a problem for the human body. It's the inert gas that's dissolved in your tissues and in your bones and in the fluids in your body that causes you the problem. If this is decompressed properly, you will have no problem. All you need is a very small amount of oxygen, a very small pressure to breathe. You will suffer no harm, except for one thing, that oxygen becomes toxic after breathing it over a long period of time. Therefore, excursions would have to be of a minimal time length. Other than that, there is no reason why you or anyone else cannot walk on the surface of the moon or in space in a vacuum without a spacesuit. How do I know? I used to be one of the world's experts on deep sea mixed gas breathing mixtures for divers and on deep saturation diving. When I was the head of the department of the Mixed Gas Deep Saturation Diving Division of the College of Oceaneering. And I can tell you now, it's much easier to decompress to a vacuum and walk on the surface of the moon than it is to bring a man up from 600 feet. I have seen the photographs, and some of them were actually published in a book called We Discovered Alien Bases on the Moon by Fred Steckling. However, all the photographs are not there, but there are some very good ones. I would advise you to buy the book. I would advise you to look at the photographs, get the NASA number, and send for them. I doubt that you can still get them, but at one time you could. In 1969, a confrontation broke out between the human scientists and the aliens at the Dulce Underground Lab. The aliens took many of our scientists hostage. Delta forces were sent in to free them, but were no match against the alien weapons. 66 of our people were killed during this action. As a result, we withdrew from all joint projects for at least 2 years. A reconciliation eventually took place, and once again we began to interact. As far as I know, today we are interacting with the aliens.
Je crois que notre génération doit savoir que la bête de l'événement est là. Et elle arrive. La bête de l'événement est là. Et elle arrive.
You know, how do we articulate, some of these existential risks, some of the challenges we have? And they're all framed as sort of runaway dystopian science text. There's a risk of nuclear war. There's a risk of environmental disaster, maybe something specific like climate change, although there are lots of other ones we could come up with. There's a risk of, bioweapons. You have all the different sci-fi scenarios. Obviously, there are certain types of risks with AI. But I always think that if we're going to have this frame of talking about existential risks, perhaps we should also talk about the risk of another type of a bad singularity, which I would describe as the one world totalitarian state. Because I would say the political solution, the default political solution people have for all these existential risks is one world governance. And the Christian framing, which in some ways is the same question, is Antichrist or Armageddon. You have the one world state of the Antichrist, or we're sleepwalking towards Armageddon. One world or none, Antichrist or Armageddon, on one level are the same question. The way the Antichrist would take over the world is you talk about Armageddon nonstop. You talk about existential risk nonstop, and this is what you need to regulate. It's the opposite of the picture of Baconian science from the 17th, 18th century, where, the Antichrist is like some evil tech genius, evil scientist who invents this machine to take over the world. People are way too scared for that. In our world, the thing that has political resonance is the opposite. It is the thing that has political resonance is we need to stop science. We need to just say stop to this. And this is where, I don't know, in the 17th century, I can imagine a Dr. Strangelove, Edward Teller type person taking over the world. In our world, it's far more likely to be Greta Thunberg.
This is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, in technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing. I
mean, to be clear, I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
Well, but again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe. But is this so preposterous that the entire world has submitted for 50 years to peace and safetyism? This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, and we've submitted to the FDA regulates not just drugs in the U.S., but de facto in the whole world, because the rest of the world defers to the FDA. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission effectively regulates nuclear power plants all over the world. People, you can't design a modular nuclear reactor and just build it in Argentina. They won't trust the Argentinian regulators. They're going to defer to the U.S. And so it's at least a question about why we've had 50 years of stagnation. I should not need to remind you that in the sort of quasi-mythological New Testament account, the slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, and that there is we're told that there's nothing worse than Armageddon, but perhaps there is. Perhaps we should fear the Antichrist. Perhaps we should fear the one world totalitarian state more than Armageddon.
My thesis is that most of technology doesn't even work. And there's always a question, is it good or evil? That's the ethical question we always get stuck on. But so much of it is it doesn't even work. It's simply bad. It's fake, fraudulent, bad. And so by that man protesting, I assume the Palantir technology at least works. He's not protesting IBM. He's not protesting Lockheed, Raytheon, all the vaporware providers. And so, if you're evil, you're at least not bad. You're not incompetent. And in a world that's full of total incompetence, you're even kind of good.
Maybe the cover-up was in our best interest, maybe not. Maybe the government underestimated the intelligence of the American people and decided we just couldn't handle it. But let me tell you this, the truth is still the truth, and nothing can change that. Not the military, not the government, and not me.
Gotcha, bitch!
My way.